Right. You about that life?
This was for TV.
Right, 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 right. Right. It's for TV.
Ooh,
It's for the radio. All right, all right, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is the King and I Life podcast, hosted by myself, Soul Touch of the Poet, Sun Soul Lex, and Phoenix. But today we have our returning special guest, Kiss Chanel, back in the house. I'm trying to tell you, we got a good topic for y'all. But before we jump into this, you can look for us and you can find us on every major podcast platform out there. And when I tell you every one of them, we are worldwide, baby. Trust me when I tell you worldwide. And if you have any comments, suggestions, input, or you want to be a guest on the show, hit us up at KINGANDEYE 369 at gmail.com. That's KingNI369 at gmail.com. But right now, we are about to get into this topic:
Yes, yes.
monogamy versus open relationships. Now, I know we're going to get into this topic. What do y'all have to say before we just, get into the opening lines of this topic? What y'all got to say? What's on your minds?
well, I just want to bring the statistic real quick. And this
Uh-oh.
comes from Psychology Today, where basically what they're saying as far as open relationships, 1 in 25 prefer open relationships. So we can definitely weigh on that. And that's men and women, is what Psychology Today is saying.
Mm. So, Lex, you got something
Um,
before we jump into it?
Only thing I would like to say is to my beautiful wife, don't hold it against me. That's it.
Please don't shut us down, ma'am. Please. All right, all right. Now we got our preliminaries out the way. So let's dibble dabble on the idea of what a relationship looks like or should look like in the eyes of, let's just say, today's society. Um, First thing we going to jump on is monogamy, a relationship norm. Um, Meaning, historically, is that what relationships were based on, or is this some societal thing that was in place because of somebody's ego or something like that?
I think it looks good to say that you are. So if you're saying back in the day, the outside presence was that you were just with your husband or just your wife, even if there were some side flings on the side, but it wasn't out in the open. Everything seemed to be so discreet. And why I say that is when you talk to some people, who are older than us, they would say, "Oh, my husband cheated on me several times," or "I
Mm-hmm.
knew about my wife and her indiscretions, but you didn't know about it until maybe they got divorced or whatever the situation is." So it seemed like it was more discreet, but doesn't mean it wasn't happening.
Right.
Um, I think again, it's one of those things that goes back to because it's tradition. Um, that's why we continue to do that to this day. Um, I I get it, but I don't get it. I get it is because when you enter into a relationship with one person, if that's what the case is at the beginning of the relationship, it's kind of hard to go back and change that contract.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there are numerous of countries around the world where um, men are allowed to have more than one wife and women are allowed to have more than one husband. But here, for the sake of argument, I would say it's more about tradition than than what this world is really practical about nowadays.
I I'm agree with you, and I think monogamy is more of a colonizer's thing, um, that has been forced upon the entire world. Because if you look back to ancient civilizations, how many of them had one wife or one woman or whatever the case may be? Um, yeah, I mean, they had more than one wife. How do you think, tribes were built? Why do you think that there was a hierarchy in the tribe to where there was one tribal leader, and he may have had three, four wives, and a lot of those were his kids and stuff like that. And I think when that whole that monogamy idea was brought or enforced and made a tradition, it seems like every other society that came before this one was looked at as, oh, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Um, I'm curious to know when monogamy became the thing for a relationship. When was it a crime to have more than one wife? Because you know, it's a crime here. You just can't do it. Like legally, you can't do it.
I'm looking at a list of countries where a man can have more than one wife, um, and that list is very extensive. So I'm just gonna call off a few here: Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, Egypt, Iran, Kenya, Uganda, uh, Sudan, Iraq, um, Afghanistan, Morocco, Saudi Arabia. The list goes on and on. That's where I'm going to stop. But the point that I'm leading to here is, with this many countries saying that it's legal in their country to do that, and for us to simply say that here in this country you can only have one wife, I think that is the most. I just don't agree with it, and I'll put it kindly
To
like
put it
that.
But
mildly.
Yeah, put it mildly. I don't agree with it.
I
Um,
love that you pulled up your list for the men, right? So I'm looking at the list for the women, and it ain't really no list.
As far as what? As far as countries
Yes,
for a woman to have
where
more than one
women
husband?
can marry more than one man or
Mm.
have more than one man is it's quite short.
well, let's hear it.
What's on that list? Yeah.
Um, they put some regions of China,
Mm-hmm.
and some island I can't even pronounce in the South Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would have to continue to and they said some parts of India, but it's not extensive as what Soul was reading. And I think you didn't even read the whole list, right? You just picked a just
Yeah, I just went over a few of them.
let me talk about the double standard.
I don't even think it's a double standard though, because if you look back at ancient Egypt, you know, it was a matriarchy, and it was women of power who had more than one husband. And and I think that shift came about when men started to oppress women, so to speak, and they made it a man's world. But for me, I say if you want to have more than one husband, more than one wife, rock out with it. I don't see a problem with it if that's what you like.
I don't either.
I
My
don't want to
thing
do
is, when women say they don't want to do it,
it.
that's fine. You know, if that's the way you feel, then go with that. But the thing about it is, um, the way I look at it is, saying that you can only love one person um,
Crazy.
is kind of like saying you can only love either your mother or your father.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You got a choice there. You can't love both of them equally, even though they produced you.
Mm.
You can't love your brother as much as you love your sister, as far as your siblings. And I think that's the most absurd thing ever, because each one of these individuals in your life, they bring something different in your life. They play a different role in your life. So um,
I like
again,
what you. I'm sorry.
I just don't agree with it. Um, my
I
wife, my wife would say, "Hell no, it's not going down here." And because Me and her, when we originally enter into our sanctity of marriage, that's what it was. Again, I can't go back on that now and say, you know what, let's change this contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically her whole point is, I didn't sign up for that.
Right.
So I'm not going back on it now.
So that was what I was going to get at, and not, not you sharing about your life, but just, what you may hear out there. So let's say that when you first entered into the union, it was, I, whatever the situation is, or even if it's a steady relationship. But what if something changed down the line where that wife or that husband wants to explore, swinging, or, having other sexual affairs? Then how does that conversation come about? And then what do you do if your other partner says, look, I'm not for it, but you're being honest, this is what you want now?
I,
Maybe your needs change. Maybe you grew up. Maybe you're not the same 20-year-old when you first married. And, like, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but what if your needs change over time?
I don't know. I mean, and that probably that
That would be
takes us
tough, I would think.
that probably takes us into our next bullet. Our open relationship relevant by today's standards. Um, I would say, yeah, I would more so say yes. Regardless of what you entered into it. Um, I say this all the time. You have to be active in your relationship to know how to manage your relationship. You can't um, come in and be like, oh well, it's gonna be like this the whole time. Things change. Moods change, feelings change, ideas change. So it's touchy for a lot of people, and if you're not built for that, you really, and I don't want to sound like too harsh to people who are monogamy masters or anything like that, but you you have to go into it with the thought process that something along the way might change. This Either this person might cheat on me, or this person might ask me to do something that I'm mentally not ready to do, and then I have to make a decision. Either I'm with this, or you know what, I'm out.
Sorry. I will say this. As far as maintaining a healthy monogamous relationship, over the course of the years, where me and my wife have been together, we both changed. We've both grown, as people. Um, I think if you stay the same, then you're really not enjoying everything that you as an individual has to uh, obtain or enjoy about the experience of being you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, do I think anybody who's strong enough to handle that, should they explore that? Hell yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
say explore the hell out of it. But you gotta both come to the table, both with an open mind to say, okay, we've been together for however many years. We've done so many things together, but I think now I would like to try something different, but I don't want to lose what we have, although I know that it's going to change in certain aspects of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, throw it all away because I got a scratch on it, or, I want to put a different color on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you and your partner come down and sit and talk about it, I mean, we've had numerous um, conversations about it. It's something that you don't just slam down on the table and say, "This is what it is. This is what it's gonna be."
Unga bunga.
That.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I
um,
think it's something that you again. It's kind of like getting into a swimming pool where the water's cold as heck. You just gotta stick a toe in right quick, and then maybe a foot, and then up to your knee. You ease into it.
mm-hmm.
But you have to be mature enough to at least have the
Yeah.
conversation and be open to what your partner is saying and take their feelings into consideration. If they really aren't with it, or is not something that they feel right about, then you have to respect that.
You,
And you can't hold it against them because, you may have opened up in a way that's not traditional for them.
right.
I agree. And as being a single woman, I don't agree with it at all, personally. I think that when you are intimate, because sex is not a sport for me, right? So I think that when you are intimate with someone, one, you trust them enough, and that you don't really hold back, right? But if you're just, to me, I think if you're just getting your shit off, you don't have that emotional connection with that person. You're just really getting your rocks off, and then that's it. And so I don't view intimacy in that type of in that type of situation. And therefore, as people are, I would say, more honest these days, as me being single, sometimes they're very open about it. Oh, I see other women, or
Hmm.
blah blah blah. And sometimes I say, well, what do you mean other women? Like having sex, or you just go out? Like what does that really mean? Because again, I don't want someone to take my choice away from me. And I don't want them to feel like they're boxed in with me, because to me, I think you're gonna get it all. So I'm not gonna hold back, when if we become intimate. But in the same time, I don't want to share penis.
Mm.
If I'm sucking on you, I want to know that I'm the only one doing it. And just like if you're doing something to me, that's what you should feel, that, what, the next man didn't run up in me last night. Like that's how I see it. But I'm still single. So maybe everybody don't see it that
Mm.
way. But I don't agree with it at all. And I think you open the door for problems when you're in a union. I think you open the door for issues, more problems. That's how I feel. Now, if you started out that way, whether it's just a relationship or a marriage, then both people probably have that same enjoyment, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you feel that both people are supposed to be together and as one, then I think that opens the door for things, just like, excessive porn and different things. You're opening the door for more things, just like women using toys. Your man is not as long as your arm, okay? He might be, but most men are not. So it's like, if you're getting used to that penis, when he comes to touch you, you're not going to feel the same way that you did before, because you're used to this gadget.
Mm.
But that's me.
That takes
There's
us
no facts behind it. It's just my opinion.
that takes us into categories of open relationships. And the first one we have is multiple partner. That's three or more partners, and sex doesn't occur between all partners. Um, I'm gonna say, as a man, if I was in a relationship or a situation like that, I'm banging all the women in the house. So if it's two, three, four women in the house, I'm banging them all. Yeah. If you're not doing it, why are you here? You know,
Well, that
that
goes with Soul said. He said maybe each one provides something different.
you gonna
Remember
provide that
Soul said
ass.
that? He said people provide different things, right? Soul, didn't you say that?
But he was talking about
Yes, I
family
did.
members though.
Yeah, but maybe the
But
one girl provides the sex, maybe one gives good emotional support. I don't know.
Oh
Explain
fuck
it,
no.
Soul.
Hell
What,
no.
what were you
Hell no.
saying?
Hell no.
when I'm
Mm-mm.
when I talk about that, for me, what I'm referring to is it's like you're saying, kids. One person or one female may be good as shit at damn business. I mean, she's so business minded that she's sharp as, you can't get anything past her. So that's one aspect of it. And then you might have another female who can cook her goddamn behind off, but she also brings something to the table as far as like contributing to the household and to the relationship. And then you might have another female who's maybe a doctor or a lawyer. So again, you have that lane right there. And my whole thing about it was, if you got a relationship, no matter how many members, and you guys come together and decide to form a household, and you don't all have to live in the same household,
Mm.
but you are pulling together as a freaking team. As a team, do you know how much you can get accomplished by that? Like
Oh, wow.
you have so many people um, that are on the same wavelength. You know what I'm saying? Like the doctor, if you have kids with her, and you have kids with the one who's good at cooking and maybe has her own restaurant. You have kids with her. If that kid that you have with the one that owns the restaurant, she can go to the or he could go to the doctor.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's so much that can be accomplished within a union like that, and that's just on the family front. We're not even talking about the business front, because imagine what you can do if you pull your resources together. Like that shit would be mad crazy to me. And that was kind of like part of my reason for wanting to explore the idea of that.
Now, before I let Kiss jump back and give her input on that, realistically, um, when we looking at multi-partner relationships, how many of us, like, let's just for the sake of conversation, how many of us are actually going to enter into that relationship with people that we are consciously going to say, I want you in here to only play this role. I want you only here to play this role and you play this role. Yes, the overall function of this is to bring our resources together, but I'm only going to have sex with this one, and you're going to sit over here and you're going to be the best cook. But I'm going to cater to all your emotional needs, but we're not going to have sex. You're the good business person. Um, not going to have sex with you. You're just going to be the one in charge of all the finances, this, that, and the other. You're the doctor, so you're going to make sure that, us as a whole, we're doing the best that we can do health wise. Me, I'm gonna have that mindset, but I'm not going to have a harem of women under the same roof with me, and I'm only going to have sex with one or two. I just don't see that as realistic to me. And I understand that people do it and people have that mindset going into it. But for me to sit in my truth on that, if I was to enter into that, I'm going to have, if it's three or four women, I'm going to have three or four women that I know that I'm going to be having sex with.
I totally agree, and that would be my point of view. I'm
Which
the
I
only
think it does.
sausage up in here from that point of view,
Right.
and I'll be real with you. But the thing about it is, when you're in a relationship like that, you got to make sure you, as a man, you can handle that shit
Yeah. Yeah.
mentally, physically, emotionally.
All of that.
I mean, you got to make sure you are right
Hmm.
before you can even consider taking on a union of that size.
Yeah.
I think sometimes where, which I have heard from people, especially women, who say, my husband doesn't do this or that. Like he may be a good provider or he's good in bed, but not a good provider, or, whatever the issue is. And they seek companionship from someone else for whatever that void is. And maybe that's the same for men. I'm not a guy, I can't say that. But what I'm getting to is perhaps that's what attracts some people to open relationships, or being not honest that they're sleeping with someone else, or finding companionship, because really you kind of settled. You didn't take what was non-negotiable to you, because no one's perfect, but you just want someone who's perfect for you, that you settled. So if you had 5 non-negotiable things and this young lady only fulfilled 2 of them or 3 of them, and you still went with it, that's probably why later on down the line you're not happy. I'm not just talking about marriage, I'm talking about just relationships where you're like, damn, she's really annoying,
Mm.
but I like that she cooked good, or I like that she gave me that stability, but there's no spark, there's no fire, she's not creative, and vice versa for women. He was great, he was on point, but there's no spice, there's no nothing. And therefore you start opening the door for curiosity, that guy who always says hi to you on your way to work, on your commute to work, or that young lady who hands you your coffee in the morning. She's not better than your wife, or your girlfriend, but she's giving you that attention that maybe you just not are not having or never did or won't. So I think sometimes missing some things that you really want open that door for open relationships or wanting open relationships. Because if somebody gave you everything that you needed, which whatever works for you, because everybody's different, then why would you really need to go out anywhere else? Because you have what you found.
And I think that that kind of touches on hybrid relationships where one person is monogamous. Um, in situations like that, uh, I wonder why people stay married. Because a lot of those things that you were just saying falls into this category of hybrid relationships because you may have this person who has two or three of your non-negotiables or whatever the case may be, and now you're settling, and it's like, why are you settling? Then you go dip out and have your little side piece or whatever, and you're getting fulfilled out there, but in a part of your brain you're saying, oh well, you know my baby at home is a good cook, or always make sure the grass is cut, and I appreciate this, that, and the other, but it's not fulfilling me in this area. And that happens so often that it's mind blowing. That to me is mind blowing that people stay in those types of relationships, whether it's marriage, and
Mm,
I think it's more mind blowing to me if you're not married
yeah.
and you're staying in that type of relationship, because it's like, why are you there? I don't care if you've been together 5, 10, 15 years. You're not married to this person, so you really have no you don't have a reason that you are forced to stay there, because hey, it's like, look, this ain't working. We've been on this merry-go-round for 3, 4, 5 years, and we're not being fulfilled. But that whole idea of stability is there, but it's like, what else is there?
Um, on this topic, I would say if someone's in a relationship where it's only one person is actually uh, being fulfilled or not being fulfilled, um, you really have to, again, put that back on you.
Mm.
You have to say what you're willing to deal with and what you're not willing to deal with. Because there are so many different aspects of any relationship. Um, if you got a relationship where that person does 99% of the things you need done, but doesn't get that 1%, you gonna throw away a damn Ferrari because it has a little scratch on the windshield? I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that. Um, but again, it comes down to each individual, what you're willing to deal with and what you're not willing to deal with.
Mm.
And are men, whether it's you guys yourself, your own opinion, or if you've had discussions with other men in the past, are men generally okay with another man running up in a woman? I don't understand that. Is that really okay? Like, there's no feeling behind that? I mean, you're all right with some guy going balls deep in your woman?
we
You guys are guys these days okay with that?
that was that was part of our the part of the conversation of, can a man handle a cheating woman? I will say, by and large, most men cannot handle that. Um, and it's whether it's an ego thing or whatever the case may be. But the problem with that is, if you as a man know damn well that you can't handle another man going balls deep in your woman, whether you know it or not, then you need to be all, or attempt to be all, the man that that woman needs. You need to go out of your way to a degree to make sure that whatever she needs, she's getting it from you. And if 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 she's honest with you and can say, "Hey, well, no, I'm not getting this from you, that from you," as son, as you were saying, if you got a little scratch on the Ferrari, what are you gonna do? Throw the whole thing away? But the thing with that is, you might have just a little scratch on that Ferrari, and you know you may look at the Ferrari and be like, you know what? How can I buff this scratch out? It's just a little scratch. I can make that scratch disappear, whatever the case may be. And she might be like, Nah, it's nothing you can do to buff that scratch out. So at that point, you have to ask yourself, is this worth staying in? Am I going to settle for this? Am I going to allow myself to be miserable in this for the sake of her own happiness, or for women for the sake of his happiness? Or are you going to say, you know what? If you need to go elsewhere to be happy, then I'm not going to be mad at you going to be happy, because obviously I can't do it for you. And if I can't do it for you, I have to be man enough to let you go. Men who stay in those type of situations and be all mad because whether they know or think that somebody else going balls deep and you can't handle it, brother, I'm telling you from experience, you need to reach down, find your balls, and be like, no matter who you are with, no matter how much they say they love you and this, that, and the other, you have to keep it in your mind that it's a possibility that they could step out on you. And that goes both ways.
I agree. Um, the thing about it is, again, this is me speaking individually, right? And when you talk about another man going balls deep in someone I'm with, I'll put it to you like this: it's all about your perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I was to enter a relationship like that, me and my wife, tomorrow, or to say we want an open relationship, I'm not even thinking about that shit. And the reason I'm not even thinking about that is because I'm busy doing me.
Right.
And evidently, if she opens up our relationship or say she wants to open up a relationship, it's because she's saying that I need something that you can't give me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not motherfucking Jesus. I can't walk on goddamn water. You dig what I'm saying? So me, that's the human part of me is saying, um, I'm willing to talk about this with you, and we can figure it out. And that's going to be part one of this discussion of the King of I Life podcast. And I'm going to finish my thought on part two, which is coming up right after this.
Yes, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
stay tuned.